Windows is doing it again. More advertisements crammed in weird places. But this has an interesting, subtle, and if you think about it, very scary subtext. We're going to have a look at that, but then we're also going to have a look at how 3 popular Linux distributions, or desktops we should say, control their settings panels, because we're going to be talking about the Windows settings panel today and some of the things coming on down the road. Thanks for checking out this video from Switch to Linux, and we are back with more Windows news. They just keep on giving us content over here. Now, I want to say on the outset that I've always said if you have to use Windows for some tool or some purpose, that's perfectly okay. I'm not so anti-Windows, I don't think anybody should not ever run it. What I am saying is that it takes so much away from you that you really should consider running alternative software whenever and wherever you can, utilizing a balance of different computer systems. And this latest push is just yet one more change that they're making to really kind of drive this advertisement marketing. We're going to push everything on you that we can so we can enrich ourselves while taking more money out of your pocket. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So if you've not already subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do that. Hit that notification button if you're inclined to do such things, and leave us a like or a dislike down below, whichever, again, you prefer. And with that, we're going to go ahead and have a look at a couple new articles. Now, the first one is Microsoft strips Windows 11 control panel of another tool. Is the writing on the wall? I hope the writing's on the wall, and I really think that Microsoft should, you fish or cut bait. Let's go ahead and just get rid of that little control panel and just put everything inside the settings. Because as I'm going to show you here near the end of the video, we're going to look at how the Windows is currently doing its settings on Windows 10. I don't have a Windows 11 computer anymore. I wiped that and sent it to somebody. So I still do have a Windows 10 on a Surface Pro that I have not touched in a long time. So right now it's literally been doing updates all day and it's not done yet. Actually, I tried to restart it about 15 minutes ago, and it still hasn't even restarted yet. So exciting, maybe. But anyway, I went ahead and recorded how their settings panel work earlier on. We also look at 3 popular Linux desktops. We want to look at Linux Mint Cinnamon. We want to look at Gnome, and I'm doing that through Ubuntu, which is pretty close to stock Gnome, but there's a couple small differences here and there. And we're going to look at Plasma KDE. Now, there is Mate, XFCE, Budgie, and these all manage settings in similar ways. Budgie being closer to Windows. There's multiple settings panels. Why? But we're going to go ahead and have a look here. But first, of course, what they're removing out of it in the next versions is the fonts page. So when you go ahead and go to the control panel on fonts, you can currently adjust all of your different fonts, and you can customize things in Windows to that degree. Now, in the next version, they're moving that over into the settings app. So it's going into settings, personalization, fonts. I support this move. I think that at this point in time, the control panel should be legacy. Let's go ahead and get rid of this. Devote our resources into unifying everything and the settings back into one location, so you have one place where settings are at, rather than this thing. Some of these settings are over here, some are over here, some settings are at both places. How exciting. And so I support this move. But basically what they're doing is they're moving that into the settings panel. But they're not done with the settings panel. Of course, what are they actually doing? Well, right now, what they're actually trying to do is cramming more advertisements into it. Now, one thing the article brings out is, yeah, they're not technically advertisements as much as they are suggestions. What's your difference between it? It's not an advertisement, a suggestion to try a product. But they don't want to use that word advertisement. It sounds too markety. They want to say suggestion. You should sign up for this. Now, of course, some of the things they're suggesting might be free. Some of the settings might cost you money. Some of them are freemium, meaning you can use an element for free and then you have to pay them money. But still, you go into your settings panel to make a change and boom, would you like to use Xbox Game Pass? Have I turned it on? Then probably not. There's a thought. Of course, we're getting this in web browsers too. As I'm playing around with Graphene OS, I've literally gone into Firefox and said, don't ask me these questions. And every time you put it in a search, would you like to do this? No. That's why I toggled the button intentionally to no. For the love. But Windows is now forcing Xbox Game Pass on you. It's going to appear on the homepage of the Settings app. So you go into the homepage of the Settings app, and now you will get the Xbox Game Pass only on certain conditions. And this is the part that is very frightening. This is actually their recommendation. Microsoft has put out a Windows Insider blog post detailing changes and the features that make up the new build. They mentioned the ads inclusion, which it calls a recommendation. On the homepage, it suggests that Game Pass recommendation card will only be shown to users who actively play games on their PC. And it also adds the advert will only show in the settings homepage if you're running Home and Pro editions of Windows 11 and you are signed into your Microsoft account. So I want you to think about that for a second. You have to be signed in the Microsoft account. They do. It's possible to use your Windows computer without signing in, but they do make it difficult and annoying. You have to pass through things. You have to turn off constant pop-ups. Hey, sign into Microsoft. It's better that way. And you get all these crazy things going on over there. So you're signed in. So, of course, if you're signed in, the reason they want you signed into the account is they can store all of your settings, all of your preferences, and all of your things to a known login account, which is conveniently verified with something that can be used to identify you to certain three-letter agencies. But then they say they're only going to show it to people who actively play games on their PCs. So if you're just a business guy and no games at all, you won't see this. But for those that are playing games on your PCs, wait, how do they know? Wait. So Microsoft knows I'm playing a game on a PC, so it pushes the ad. Now, granted, of course, there's not some evil, weird guy, kind of like me, sitting back there going, oh, this guy, he's playing games. Let's go ahead and push the button. No, but they have something in their code, knows if you're playing games, and they're pushing this out to you. But this is something that is tied to your account. It's tied to your flags. It's tied to all these things. And so if some three-letter agency's like, well, we know that this guy made some reference to Black Ops, so show us all your Windows users in this region that play Black Ops. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? And so what we're seeing in this case is another situation where Microsoft is collecting a bunch of data on you and then pushing its suggestions upon you in something as simple as a settings app. Why? Why do you need to do this? And this is why I have a serious problem with it. And the settings panel itself, now what we're going to do from here, we're going to transition over, and I want to have a look first at how Windows is doing settings. I'm just going to show you, you probably already know this, but some of the things you change in the control panel, some of the things you change in your settings, and it's kind of all over the place. Some things are in both, like I think mouse settings, you can get to it in both the settings and the control panel. Some things, if you go to it in the control panel, it just redirects you to the settings. And I'm really an advocate. Let's simplify the process, get rid of that legacy control panel, put everything into that settings app. Let's devote our time into that. That will actually simplify Windows and probably make a better overall user experience. But what I then want to show you is I want to show you how 3 desktop environments manage their settings panels. There are certainly other ones out there. There are more complicated, more difficult settings systems. Of course, you might find a distribution or a desktop that doesn't manage its things well, but we're going to look at Cinnamon. We're going to look at Gnome / Ubuntu's version of Gnome, and we're going to look at Plasma on Manjaro. And we're going to show you what these settings panels look like in Linux. So if you're considering making a move to Linux, this might help you to say, hey, how do I manage my mouse? How do I manage my fonts? I'm going to show you how to do all that inside of these with these individual control panels. So one of these is a virtual machine, that being Ubuntu. The other 2 are real hardware. The Plasma is on a Raspberry Pi, and the Cinnamon is on the laptop that I use to do some of the work. I think the Ubuntu and the Cinnamon are the newest versions, and the Plasma is still 5.2.7. Of course, Plasma 6 is out, but I don't recall there being a ton of changes in the settings panel. There's probably a couple, but it'll do a pretty good job. It is Manjaro after all, so it's fairly recent. So let's go ahead and transition over to those, and then we'll come back here and wrap up at the end. So now we're over here on Windows, and this is where things get a little weird. Now, in full disclosure, this is Windows 10, not Windows 11, and I'm not sure exactly which version of 10 it is. I am pushing some updates through right now, but this is still the current state of Windows 11, in that we have two different places that you might change things. One of these is the Settings app, and the other one is the Control panel. So when you look at these two items here, what you will see is that some of the items that you might need to do are going to be inside the settings, and some of the items that you might need to do are going to be inside of the control panel. And even worse, a few of these will flip-flop around between different locations. And so you might have a hard time finding stuff depending on what you are attempting to do. And so this is where Linux currently is in a state. Now, they are moving things. We talked about the fonts over here right now on the control panel. They have fonts over here inside the control panel. This is something that is also now moving into the settings panel. I think they should probably focus a lot of time in just getting rid of the control panel altogether, moving everything over to the settings panel, because pretty much everything we have over here can be managed over there. In fact, some of the applications you can see are here in the settings panel, but then there's also, or in the control panel, but then there's also a place to remove some applications in the settings panel. And they don't have the exact same information necessarily, in that there are some apps in here that are not in the control panel, although I think everything in the control panel should be over here. So Windows is really in this transitional period, which you'd think as being the most popular desktop system probably would have this figured out, but it doesn't. It gives us a mishmash of different things in different places and different locations. So there's mouse properties there. I don't think we have any mouse properties over here. Oh, we do have mouse properties over here. So you can change things in multiple different places. Will one impact the other or not? So really what we see in Windows in this layout here is that there is a problem in the fact that there's multiple places to go for settings. Some of them are missing from one, some of them are missing from the other. Some of them can be done from both places, and this could very easily cause some confusion in the end user in figuring out what you need to do where. And so they are slowly moving towards moving things from the control panel over into the settings app. In my opinion, they should probably focus a lot more time on making that transition complete, dropping the control panel altogether, and not be taking years. They've been doing this for 10 years now, roughly. Maybe it's 8 years now, I think. They have been working in this transition. Oh, maybe it was. I think this nonsense started in Windows 8. I don't know. But anyway, that is the confusion that you might have inside of Windows that you may not have inside of Linux with their more unified control panels. This is getting better, yes. But hey, at least I don't have Windows 11 where they're going to start showing us some ads inside the settings panel. That's right. In Windows 11, as we talked about already, somewhere on this screen, in theory, we will have advertisements for the latest version of Xbox Game Pass or something, whatever it is. But we've already talked about that. Here's the settings panel on Linux Mint Cinnamon, which is the Linux version I generally recommend for newcomers. It is a very simple, easy to understand settings panel, so only one place to manage everything inside of here. And inside of this, we see our backgrounds. So you can set your background images over here. You can choose a variety of images from Linux Mint, or we have different just beautiful images around, or you can choose something from your own pictures. So the other option that we have various effects. These are just the things that make the operating system look shiny as you pull things up. You'll see this slight up and down. That's from the window effects turned on and things like that. Your font selection, you can control what all of your system fonts look like across the board by changing the items over here. And then you can even turn on text scaling, hinting, all these other different elements there. And then our themes. Of course, the newer versions of Cinnamon will have this more simplified theme. If you have an older version of Cinnamon, this is the only one that you would see here, which is still pretty good. You can go ahead and click on this and choose what your desktop layout's going to look like, your icon packs, your button types. Now, this is one of the criticisms of Linux Mint, is there's so many in here. You might like that, you might not like that. But there are a lot. Other desktops or other distros that add Cinnamon as a desktop will not have that many options. Of course, any of your newer Cinnamon will have your more simplified layouts as well, which we can do a mixed. We can do a light. So the light is everything is light. We can do a mixed where we have a dark panel, dark menu, light, everything else. Or we can do the dark, which is what I'm using on this one here. And then we can choose our accent colors. Down here under your preferences, these are a variety of just different system configurations. So if you want accessibility, account details, this is your individual login. So if I wanted to go ahead and change my name, change my picture, so I go over here and just, grab some new piece of picture. Hey, coffee's good. Let's go with coffee. So now when I go in and go to log into my system, I'll see a picture of coffee there. So our actions is a new feature in Cinnamon. This allows us to control our context menu. So if you go to your desktop and you right click, we can now change our display settings. We can add desklets. We can create a new launcher. But it also has things, though, if I have an ISO, I can verify the file, so I don't have to work with any other verification type stuff. So I can go ahead and use a variety of different checks to see. So if I had local files, I could calculate. I could save the thing in over here. And then we just need to wait for this to finish calculating the sum of this guy here. But I also have options to right-click. I can make a bootable drive. I can mount it as an archive. So there you go. There's my SHA-256. So if I were to have a file, I could just go ahead and upload the file. I can drop it into URL, and it'll go ahead and verify the file for me. So these are nice new features that the new version has had. Of course, you can go ahead and download more of these, and there's a variety of different things that you might want to do. Your applets, they control what is on your panel. So I have the calendar panel over here. I have a favorites, which is over here. Keyboard, menu, which is our menu. Network manager is what we see over, it's over here somewhere. Oh, right there. With our network, we have notifications only show up. Here's your panel launchers. Our power management printers show up over here. So, and of course, some of these will only show up if something shows up over here. Here's your show desktop, which I think I can probably get rid of that one because the newer version of Cinnamon actually already has a show desktop in the corner. But that's something that's been there for a long time. And then your whole system tray has all of these items over here. Date and time just configures your location, your time formatting of your clock and things like that. Desklets, these are things that we can add to our desktop. So if you want to have a photo frame, launchers, a clock, and then there's, again, a lot of over here that you can download new ones if you wanted to. So there's a variety of different things over here you can download as well. Desktop controls your icons and the size of your desktop. And then extensions. I have no idea which one the extensions are. I've never used the extensions. So let's have a look. What we got? Maxims. Okay, we have dynamic wallpaper. So desktop backgrounds based on time and location. So if I want to change things based on what time it is, we can watermark the desktop. Maybe you can watermark it and say, hey, we don't need to activate this. But there's a number of different extensions you can add to it. Your general settings, these are disable compositing for Windows. Again, some of these things, if you don't know what they do, just kind of leave them alone. They're generally set by default what they are for good reasons. This one here, if your desktop, if your Cinnamon desktop starts taking up too much memory, it'll automatically restart itself, and you can set it to check how frequently it's using that much memory. There's gestures, hot corners, input methods, languages, online accounts. This allows you to sync in with your Google, your Microsoft, your Nextcloud. I don't know if this will allow you to manage Microsoft OneDrive directly in here at this point in time. Your panel is all of your settings down here in your panel. You see the panel just turned red as it turned on editing mode. And then if you prefer what application is your default. So you can see I have several web browsers installed. Firefox is the default. I can go ahead and set the default for that. Over here, here's your mail, music applications, photos, office type documents, system files, things like that. And then this is your privacy. So how frequently do you want to forget old files? Do you want to do a connectivity check, which will occasionally ping to make sure it's still connected to the internet? So you can turn that on or off as well. Screensavers. We used to have pretty screensavers. People have done away with that, but now you can set it to display the clock on the desktop. This is what applications are starting up. You'll see I turned off the welcome screen altogether. I've turned off the print queue applet. I'll only turn that on if I need to. I've turned off support for NVIDIA because I don't use NVIDIA. And I've turned off system reports because generally I don't use it. Then there's other applications here. I could turn this off if I never want to be alerted to updates, and I can still do things up manually if I wanted to. Here's your Windows. What is your button layout? So if you want to change your button layout, you can go ahead and do that. Here's like your Gnome. Here's your Classic. I prefer the old right. And then you can toggle what the various actions do. If you double-click the menu bar, maximizing, minimizing, big, low. So there's a lot of different options we have inside of there. And then your hardware, here's, of course, managing your Bluetooth. This is my headset. This is my Bluetooth headphones. So apparently I've connected that at one point in time. And I can go ahead and connect new devices and things like that. Well, we're not connecting to that device. No, it's not turned on. Oh, I just turned it off. I don't plug that in frequently. But you can go ahead and come over here and add Bluetooth devices. Color management, just how are you running your calibrations and things. I generally don't mess with that. Here's your disks. This is all the various disks we have on the system. I have 2 internal drives on this laptop. Here's your displays. Oop, and I just closed my settings panel. Some of them, the back button was over there on the side. So, and then graphics tablets. Those are your Wacom tablets, keyboard, mouse, network management. We'll look at that real quick. No, not power settings. Look at network management real quick. So here's your wired, your Wi-Fi, your VPNs, all that kind of stuff shows up over here. And then power management. So on battery or on AC, what do you do? And then there's other options. You know, when you press the power button, what happens? Printers, sounds, you want to turn on sounds or whatever else. Actually, on the latest version of Linux Mint here, I actually turned off the notification sound because it was driving me crazy. And then here's your basic system information. So this is the real hardware. This is not a virtual machine. And then administration. This is a driver utility, which will look for any other drivers we might be needing. There probably isn't any, but hey, it wouldn't be bad to look. We have a firewall, our login window, which is what we can use to set for. We can use this to set if something auto logs in or whatever else. Users and groups and our software sources is where we are getting our repositories from. This is when we need to enter our password to look at. So this, we can choose which one of these places we grab these from. Here's your PPAs. Of course, I have Kdenlive and OBS since this is one of my 2 development computers. And then that's kind of what we have over there. So no extra drivers are needed. So that's your settings panel in Linux Mint. Here we are on the Ubuntu settings panel, and Ubuntu settings panel is going to be very similar to the Gnome settings panel, as Ubuntu is based on Gnome. There are a few differences here and there, but for the most part, your settings panel in Ubuntu is going to resemble your Gnome settings panel. So here you can see we are on the latest Ubuntu 24.04. We are on a Ryzen 5. We have 6 gigs of RAM in here. And we are running this on Gnome boxes. So up here, again, is your network. So here's your wired. There's no wireless card, or we would see the option for that. Here's your VPNs. Here's your proxies. Bluetooth. Again, there's no Bluetooth on this one here. If you did have it and it were turned off, you can just toggle it back on up here. You can toggle it off up there. And then here is your display settings. So you can do your scales. Here's your night lighting, which you can turn on, you can turn off. So it can be used from a virtual machine. Yeah, that's the limitation of a virtual machine. Hey, the other one was real hardware. You know, what can we say? Here's your audio. So again, you can control all of your different line inputs and line outputs over here. And the new version of Ubuntu does have a few extra power options that are available if you're running on a laptop. Here's your hot corners. So you can enable different hot corners. You can enable various workspaces, displays, multi-monitor settings and things. And of course, we have our accent colors. You can choose light or dark accent colors. And then some of the pictures, like these ones here that have the two different color panels, these are pictures that will adapt based on the night light settings or the timing settings. So they'll be brighter during the day and darker during the evening. Ubuntu Desktop, this is something that is only going to be on Ubuntu. It's not going to be in the Gnome settings panel, but this is where you can toggle all the different things like icons, sizes, the panel sizes, and things like that. Applications allows you to control some individual details. So you can turn on or off notifications on individual applications. Some of them, of course, you can control network access or camera access or things like that. So that's what you have inside of here. Very similar to how Android is going to work, where they can access a variety of different system permissions. Your notification panels, you can turn on or off notifications for different elements of the system. And then here you can turn on or off how the search function works. So the embedded search function up here will search for anything you have in here. So if you're searching up an app, it can do that. If you're searching up an appointment on a calendar, it can do that. Online accounts, this is the one in the version of Gnome that will allow you to actually manage your OneDrive account. You can also manage, of course, your Google Docs account, as well as Nextcloud, which are the one I use. And you can do generic WebDAV for calendars, contacts, files. You can set up generic email addresses, and then any system-wide application which can access that particular function can then gain access to those things. So this is not behind the times in any way, shape, or form. There's sharing. If you want to be able to turn on or off sharing, you can do that. Of course, I manage all that from a local NAS. Mouse, touchpad, keyboards, colors. You can add printers over here. And then you have accessibilities, privacy settings over here. So you can fine-tune your location. So you could turn this on, and then different apps you might be able to give location permissions to. We have our screen lock, file and trash history, how frequently are things deleted, or are they automatically deleted. And then here's diagnostics. So do you want to send reports? Never, automatically, or manually. So you can turn those on or off as you need be. And then this is your languages, dates and times, and things like that. So you can see very competent single place settings panel will control all these different options inside of these Linux systems. So this isn't just Ubuntu. This is very similar on other Gnome features. So remember, your desktop environment is what dictates how you interact with the operating system. So anything running Gnome is going to behave very similar to this. So your Fedora, Debian that's running your Gnome, any distribution running Gnome is going to look very similar to this. This settings panel comes from Plasma. This is not the brand new version, Plasma 6, but this is the last version prior to that, 5.27.9. And this one here, doesn't have a massive significant change in the settings panel, so we opted to just show you this. Since this is a production computer, this is actually my Raspberry Pi 4 Model B, which is used as my web design computer. So this one is full production. So inside of your settings panel, you have a nice search bar at the top, and then we have just a lot of like literally everything. Now, some people have criticized Plasma as having too many settings. That very well might be true. However, it does give you the ability to control everything in your system without having to rely on external apps. One example is, for example, the night shift, whereas other applications like Linux Mint might have a separate panel for that. This is all embedded directly into the settings itself, where you can turn it always off. You can do sunset, sunrise at current location, sunset, sunrise at a manual location, custom times, or always night color on. So there's a lot of different things you can find in here without relying on external apps. Now, inside of the display settings we have here, inside of your global theme, this is overarches your menu and your windows. Your application style is what do things like your tabs, your percent bars, and things like that look like. You see I'm using Breeze here. And then the Plasma style is going to get you your window layouts. So I'm using Breathe Dark here for this one. And inside of our colors, we can choose from the current color scheme. Now, this is Manjaro, which always does a really good job theming things. But in the newer versions, we do have accent colors, so we can choose accent colors as well. We can even choose from the current wallpaper. And window decorations, we can choose what these look like. Of course, you can always, down here in Plasma, there's this little button down here, get new window decorations. You can get new application styles, new all sorts of things. There's a lot of these. Since this is Manjaro, Manjaro does a really good job of making things look pretty, so I never bothered changing any of those. I just went with the defaults. There's your fonts. Of course, that's the thing that Windows is moving around now. And then here's your icon packs. Again, you can add more icon packs. You can change your cursors around. And this is font management, all the various fonts on all the system, what is just installed personally, what is installed system-wide, and then your splash screen. So this is your, I believe this is your login screen. So that is all inside of the appearance. Now, this version of Plasma, or just a couple versions back from this, got things a lot better organized. Organization is a lot better to find things. We can do anything from desktop effects, screen settings, touch screens, virtual management of desktops. We can do how things look when we are moving in between different applications. And then you can, of course, configure shortcuts for absolutely everything. Even if there's an application you want to load on a certain shortcut, you can go ahead and do that. Here's your startup and your shutdown options. This is your login screen, apologies. So you can see there's your login screen, that's SDDM. Auto start, this will tell you anything that is auto starting. I don't have anything set up. And this is the various background services that are starting on startup. So if there's anything I might want to enable or disable, like I could probably come in here and disable touchpad support because it's a Raspberry Pi. There's no touchpad. And the keyboard I have doesn't have one either. So these are all just various options. You can disable Bluetooth if you never use it, things like that. And here's your desktop session. Do you want to show the logout screen, things like that. We can do configurations on your individual notifications. You can manage your system users over here. And you can even change and fully customize your regional settings. Of course, here's your default phone number layouts, default currencies, how the timestamps go. You can go ahead and change these any way you want on any system. You're not dependent on anything else, all within this one panel. Now, online accounts does require an extra plugin to have the full range of things. I use a Nextcloud for things, but there's really only one major feature I use, and I just plug it directly into Evolution because that's the only application I use it with, and that's being the calendar syncing. Inside your connections, this is where you can, here's your wired, here's your wireless, here's your VPNs, and inside your settings panel here, we have just like your network settings. Are you configuring proxies? Do you have preferences for how things are setting up? SSL preferences. So you can see there's more stuff in here. Like, I don't even know what any of this stuff means. So it's probably okay. Just leave the defaults. But things are here in order to change them if you want to. So here is default username and password on Windows shares. I'm not going to click the firewall one because that'll require me to enter my password, but that'll control the firewall options. Input devices, keyboard, mouse, game controllers. Never plugged a game controller into here. I don't know. Presumably it might work. Here's your touchpads, of course. There's none found. And this is where we change all of our display settings. And this is also where our colors are. That's where our night color is. Of course, we could search for anything up there. Here's your audio management. So you can see we can do the analog audio output. We can do HDMI output. In fact, I should probably change it to that because I'm plugged into a monitor that has HDMI output. So if there happens to be notification sounds or anything, they will come through my monitor there. And I'm going to move my laptop screen to see if there's an apply button. No, I think we're good, just like that. All right, and then power management. Of course, if this were a laptop, we might look at doing some advanced power settings or things like that. But again, this is not a laptop or anything. Here's your Bluetooth management. I have it disabled because I don't use Bluetooth on this. I could enable it if I wanted to attach Bluetooth headphones, listen to music, things like that. I could do that. And then here's various removable storage items. So there you have it. There is how to manage your settings inside of 3 Linux desktop environments. And then we also looked at how Windows is still all over the place. Hopefully it gets better. Hopefully they devote the resources towards simplifying the settings, moving it all into one single application in order to simplify the process for everybody. But then why in the world do we need ads? And why are they giving us conditional ads? How now that they know that we play games, how long are they going to push you more stuff based on you write Word documents, you listen to music? Ooh, try out this new app, try out this new service, try out this. No. These are some of those things that have pushed me away from Windows over the years, and I am glad to share them with you today. Again, if you have to use Windows, I'm not mad at you if you have to use Windows. I would just love you to look at your other options and consider other choices, particularly looking at Linux, because it really truly gives you control back over your own computer. With that, thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. And I'll go ahead and put a video here at the end that you might like to see. And with that, thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.